Good evening, everyone. On behalf of the Kansas Corporation Commission, I do want to thank you to tonight's public hearing. My name is Andrew French, and I am the current chair of the Kansas Corporation Commission. And joining me are my colleagues, Commissioner Dwight Keene and Commissioner Susan Duffy. And briefly, if the commissioners would like, I'd have them just unmute and introduce themselves and say a brief hello. And I'll start with Commissioner Keene.
Thank you, Chair French. I am Commissioner Dwight Keene. I want to join Commissioner French in welcoming all of you who may be participating and hopefully joining us via Zoom this evening. This entire exercise is intended to benefit you, to provide you with information incidental to the proposal that's before us. And I join with Commissioner French and Chair French in thanking you for joining us.
Thank you, Commissioner Keene. Commissioner Duffy, would you like to introduce yourself?
Thank you, Chair French. My name is Susan Duffy, and I also appreciate the opportunity to be here this evening. I do believe our public hearings are an integral part of our proceedings here at the Commission. They are important to us to better understand your feelings and thoughts about the matter that concerns you at this time. Also, I do believe that our ability to Zoom to you is another avenue to increase participation, as you can just put on your pajamas and bring your dinner right to your computer and still participate. And again, we believe this part, and I think I speak for all the commissioners, believe that this part of the proceeding is a key part in us better understanding your thoughts and concerns about the current proceeding. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Duffy. Well, I didn't know I was allowed to bring my dinner, but I'm going to keep that in mind for next time. As Commissioner Duffy just mentioned, to make participation in the hearings as convenient as possible for Empire and Liberty customers throughout their service territory, this hearing is being held virtually by Zoom with live streaming to the KCC's YouTube page. Please bear with us if you experience any technical difficulties. I will now call to order the public hearing in docket number 21 EPDE 444 RTS. This docket was initiated by Empire Electric to adjust its electric base rates. The Commission welcomes public input on utility rate cases, and your opinions are important to us, and we appreciate your interest. Tonight's hearing will operate in two parts. The first part of the hearing is an informational session. You'll hear brief presentations explaining the issues being addressed in the docket from representatives of Empire, the Citizens Utility Ratepayer Board, or CURB, which represents residential and small commercial ratepayers, and from the Commission's staff. After the presentations, there will be an opportunity for the public to ask questions of these parties. The Commission will not be present during the first part of this evening's public hearing. However, at the conclusion of the Q&A or presentations, the Commission will rejoin the meeting to hear your public comments during part 2 of the hearing. I'll now turn the hearing over to the Commission's Assistant General Counsel and Pre-Hearing Officer in this docket, Mr. David Cohen. He will moderate part 1 of tonight's agenda. I hope you find it informative, and we, the Commission, will see you again for part 2. The Commission meeting will now stand in recess until the conclusion of part 1 of the hearing. David?
Thank you, Chair French. Good evening. As stated earlier, we will begin part 1 with brief presentations from representatives of Empire Electric and the Citizens Utility Ratepayer Board and Commission staff. At the conclusion of the final presentation, we will have the opportunity to ask speakers any questions you have about the case. Our first presenter is Tim Wilson, Vice President of Electric Operations at Empire. Greg Tillman, Senior Manager of Rates and Regulatory Affairs, will follow him. Our next, Tim?
Yeah, good evening. Do you guys have the presentation ready? Greg is trying to screen share at the moment. Well, while he's doing that, first of all, again, I echo the sentiments as outlined by our commissioners as well. This is a very important part of the rate making process, and I really appreciate those in attendance tonight. I don't know if it was as warm and nice where you're at as it was here today, but you could probably be grilling out or doing something else that's a lot more perceived as fun than this. So I really do appreciate your time here. As mentioned, my name is Tim Wilson, the Vice President of Electric Operations for Liberty Empire District. And I do have Greg Tillman with me, who is the Senior Manager of Rates and Regulatory Affairs for us. And then we have a few others on the phone as well, in case there is some detailed information or questions that are needed. So with that, I'll go ahead and kind of give some introductions, give an overview of what we're going to talk about, and then I'll hand it over to Greg to go over the specifics of what the case is. So we'll start off, as always, with a safety moment. Then we're going to go into a bit of an overview of the central region that's headquartered here in Joplin, Missouri. Talk a little bit about our renewable energy and our customer savings plan. That's kind of the primary point of this case, as well as the repurposing of Asbury. And we are, Greg will get into that this is an abbreviated case, but I think just as important as anything here, this is a public hearing. And during the public hearing, we do have a special hotline for customers, especially if they have some questions that they may not want to, give out any specific personal details or may just not want to speak in public in front of everybody. We do have a hotline that's open until 9 p.m. specifically for those of you that are on this line that may want to call in. And it's 1-833-408-2712. Again, that's 833-408-2712. And then, of course, anytime, as always, you can call our great customer service reps at 800-206-2300. So we always safety first here at Liberty Utilities, and you always know, hey, stay away from power lines. They could be energized, but the first thing to do if you do come in contact, or you may not realize if you are or if you aren't, the first thing to do is not panic. In any situation like that, panicking will and could lead to potentially things that you wouldn't do otherwise. And so the first thing to do is don't touch anything. And it's probably easiest just to call 911 and go from there. You can call our customer service number again that I've already alluded to at the 206-2300. But be calm and call 911 or our customer service. The most important thing is stay inside your vehicle. And also there will be, especially in our neck of the woods when everyone wants to help each other, folks may try to approach your vehicle and warn them to stay away as well and make sure they don't touch the vehicle, attempt to touch it or the line itself. If there is an emergency and you must leave the vehicle, make sure you jump clear to avoid being in contact with the car and the ground at the same time. Here's a bit of an overview if you're not real familiar with the central region. I think a lot of folks are familiar with the, quote unquote, old Empire service territory. But whenever we had our merger with Liberty Utilities, we got a little bit bigger in the central region and out of Joplin. You can see the colorful map to the right. The state that's the most colorful there is Missouri. Just if you can't tell the lines very easily, that is Missouri. I won't talk too much about that other than you can see we do have gas and water and wastewater as well as electric in 6 different states here in the Midwest, being Missouri, Kansas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Illinois, and Iowa. As you can see, our electric service territory is the bright red, and then the 2 counties that we do serve in Kansas and Southeast Kansas. Liberty in Kansas. This is kind of my favorite slide. For those who don't know me, I live in Kansas as well, just south of Galena in the Riverton area as well. So I'm very proud of what we do in the state of Kansas. If you see the state of Kansas on the right, those are our power generation facilities. We do have simple cycle natural gas units as well as a combined cycle in Riverton. We've been serving our customers safely, reliably, and affordably for over 100 years out of that site. We do have purchase power wind farms as Elk River, and then up at the top, Meridian Way near Concordia, Kansas. And then as part of what we're going to discuss tonight is the Neosho Ridge Wind Farm. So those are our power generation facilities. We do have 42 employees in the state of Kansas. Now, there are some of us that don't work in Kansas, but also work for the company that aren't listed there. And then, of course, out of our Baxter Springs Service Center, we do have 18 employees there. And we further committed to the local community. You can see the Liberty Park here on the bottom right that we dedicated last week. That's right on Route 66, a block off of kind of the main intersection into Baxter. If you're familiar with Baxter, that would be Military and 12th Street's just a block off of there. We had a substation that we decommissioned and actually upgraded it and put it outside of town. And we got a lot of donations and worked really hard to turn that into a little park. So something we're kind of proud of there. I already mentioned our electric facilities. We do have almost 600 miles of distribution lines in the state of Kansas and over 100 miles of transmission lines as well. I already mentioned the Liberty Park, but a couple of things that we're also proud of and being a part of our community. They're little things, but sometimes those are the ones that mean the most to people. And I know the folks in Riverton, just south of the school, really enjoy the walking trail that we have and that we've sponsored. We always, try to be a part of the youth and the fairs that we have here locally. And then again, the Baxter Springs Park that we just dedicated last week. Our commitment to renewable generation. I think in the past, when folks think, renewable generation, you think, well, that's nice, but, it's more expensive. And I think the beauty of what we've done here with the customer savings plan is that it's actually not only renewable and environmentally friendly, but it's also economic for our customers. So that's something that's really exciting, at least for me anyway. So that's what got us down the road of going on our customer savings plan. We have projected savings, and again, this is total company. So all 4 states, the savings of upwards of $170 million in 20 years and up to $300 million over 30 years. And again, that's 600 megawatts of wind. You can see the turbines there listed by site. Neosho Ridge is in southeast Kansas. And then Kings Point and North Fork Ridge are in southwest Missouri. Obviously, when you have that type of projects that are here locally in the community, that provides construction jobs as well as operation jobs. And then, of course, from a tax benefit perspective in Missouri, there's local and state taxes there, as well as contribution payments and agreements to the local communities in southeast Kansas with respect to Neosho Ridge. Environmental benefits probably speak for themselves. You think about emissions, but also water is something that's big in the power generation world. A lot of fossil fired generators, as well as nuclear, use a lot of water for cooling. And obviously we don't need water for cooling here. So again, a natural resource that we're able to minimize the impact on the environment. And then, of course, from a habitat protection perspective, we've worked with KDHE and other agencies here locally and in the state to ensure we have the best siting to minimize any impact that we would have on the environment. And we have a little video here for you.
With Liberty's wind farms being the first here in southwest Missouri, it's good to get on the ground floor and be a part of that and see that we are leading the way. My name is Chuck Sargent. I've been with Liberty for a little over 18 years now. Purpose wind farms to produce energy, which we all need, and that's what we're all after here. The wind farms allow us to do that without the added cost of fuel maintenance and fuel purchases. From the emission side, if you're not burning any fuels, then we don't have any air emissions associated with that.
It is extremely exciting to be part of this project. My name's David Eaton, and I've worked for Empire and Liberty for 35 years. These are the first wind farms that we've had in southwest Missouri. This particular site, Kings Point, with our budgeted wind during the year, will power approximately 49,000 homes if they each have an average of 1,000 kilowatt hour usage per month.
We have 2 types, V110s, 120s. 120s are a little bit taller. They go up to 122 meters at the hub. And then if you figure the blade straight up, it's just shy of 600 feet. It's almost 2 Statue of Liberties with the blade tip height, or it's just shy of the St. Louis Arch. Wind turbines work the same principle that we used in energy production. We capture the wind and the energy from the wind, and it spins a shaft into a generator, which in turn produces the electricity, and then it's captured in a transformer up tower, and then it's dropped down tower to the collection system that's all underground, and then that 34 kV collection system is sent to the collection substation, and that's where we step it up, and then we feed that just like any other generator tie line to one of our existing substations.
With technology advancements, the turbines are a lot taller, they're able to catch more of the wind, and they're more efficient. It's very exciting to see this much generation go up with producing green energy. We don't have fuel costs, and we don't have emissions to worry about. So we're very excited to be a part of that.
The cost savings alone over the long haul is what we're after with these wind turbines, and it will allow us to produce the energy needed at a lower rate cost for long term. I think it shows the direction the industry is going and the way of energy savings, cost savings down the road will be, and it's good to be putting the first step forward with that.
Thank you for that video. Repurpose Facilities, I alluded to Asbury earlier. That was a coal-fired unit that we have recently retired. It was constructed in 1970. It was nominally about 200 megawatts, but one thing that's neat about that is we're still using that facility. It's a good facility. So you can take a look at the right. We have repurposed a lot. And so this is kind of a pictorial of what's staying and what's going. We have named it the Asbury Renewable Operations Center. That not only will we operate our wind farms out of there, but also our new community solar that we have just put in place in between Joplin and Webb City off of 249, if you're familiar with that area. So as you can see from the picture, we're going to keep the warehouse, the substation, parking, break room, the offices that are now we call the A-Rock, and the contractor offices. And then you can see what's outlined in kind of the turquoise area are items that we will eventually dismantle and remediate. You can see where the coal pile used to be there in the top center. We'll completely remediate that, as well as on the right. Top right, you can see also that we have ash ponds that regardless of what we did with this facility, we were going to have to close. And so that's something that we still have to do. We do have, 25 folks working there. I think the thing that I'm probably most proud of as we've transitioned from Asbury to the wind facilities is we had 62 employees at full staff at Asbury. Almost all of the 25 FTEs that you see for operations there all came from Asbury, and not one person lost their job. They either retired or went to another facility or stayed there to be at the Asbury Renewable Operations Center. So personally, being from the area and working here for so many years, knowing a lot of those people, I'm really proud of the fact that nobody lost their job and we maintain that promise. You can see there all the repurposed assets we have. And as I mentioned, not only did we have to remediate our ash ponds, we were also going to have to open new dry ash landfills, which were going to cost significant dollars were we to keep it operating. So it didn't make sense operating now into the future without that. That was just additional costs that we knew wasn't going to make it economically feasible for our customers moving forward. And again, we've already actually been saving money there because we don't have the operations and maintenance costs associated with operating the facility since we retired it a year ago, March. And so as Greg will show you here on the subsequent slide, there's already a credit to customer for reduced Asbury costs, which began in March of 2020. With that, I will hand it over to Greg to talk about the abbreviated rate case.
Let's see if we can get this. Can you hear me now? Yes. So Liberty's filed this case, and it's important to note that it's an abbreviated rate case, which means a lot for us, the commission, and our customers. But our primary goals in this rate case is to put the wind farms, basically, that Tim talked about into our rate base and put those into operation for our Kansas customers. And that adds about $4.5 million to rates. Fortunately, when we put those wind farms into into production, they will begin creating savings for customers. And that second bullet there, and the other thing we've done, Tim talked about, was we retired our Asbury coal plant. We've repurposed a portion of that to continue to use. But that retirement, that whole activity actually saves our customers in Kansas about $904,000 a year. And then when we put those wind farms into operation, we'll begin creating savings on fuel because wind farms don't have any fuel bills. So that reduction will mean about $2.7 million a year to our Kansas customers. So we're crediting about 3.8 of that 4.5 million back to customers immediately. And in the long run, those savings will increase for really two reasons we're seeing. One is an increase in fuel costs will cause the wind farms to become more valuable and create more savings on that third line. And then another thing that we've seen happen over the past few months is an increase in the environmental value of wind farms. So where we believed it was a certain amount that we would be able to create in selling environmental attributes of those wind farms, that has actually increased several folds. So that benefit also will go to customers when these wind farms are in our rates. Now, the abbreviated rate case essentially limits the scope of what we're dealing with in this particular rate case, creates a situation where we don't have as many issues to deal with, and our attorneys would say litigate. But the important thing is that reduces costs for our customers in the long run. And just real quickly, talk about the immediate impacts on customers when these rates go into effect as we proposed. Then the residential customer bills will increase by about $5 a month, which is about a 4.5% increase. And small commercial customers will see an increase of about 7.3%, or about $13 per month. With that, I will let you know once again that if you have any questions that you want to bring up to our customer service representatives tonight during the call, you can call 833-408-2712 up until 9 p.m. Central, or anytime you can call our customer service line at 800-206-2300. With that, thank you very much. We appreciate you, and we will certainly be available for any questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Greg. Our next speaker is David Nickel, Consumer Counsel for the Citizens Utility Ratepayer Board.
Good evening. My name is David Nickel. I'm Consumer Counsel for the Citizens Utility Ratepayer Board, known by its acronym CURB. As Chairman French indicated, CURB has intervened in this case on behalf of residential ratepayers and small commercial ratepayers that are located within the Empire District Electric Company service territory in Kansas. Let me tell you a little bit about CURB and then talk about the issues in this particular case. So CURB's mission is to represent residential and small commercial utility ratepayers in three different forums. The first is before the Kansas Corporation Commission. The second is before the Kansas Legislature. And third is before the Kansas courts. With regard to the Kansas courts, our representation capacity has to do with appeal of Kansas Corporation Commission orders. The most visible thing that we do, CURB does, is to represent residential and small commercial utility ratepayers before the Kansas Corporation Commission. It's our most direct impact with regard to those ratepayers as our intervention affects utility rates and utility practices. CURB is a very small Kansas governmental agency. We have less than about $1 million worth of cost. None of that cost comes from state revenues. It is all fee funded from assessments that we assess against our Kansas utilities. We only have 7 employees currently. Myself as consumer counsel, I oversee the work of 2 attorneys and 2 rate analysts. And we have 2 administrative professionals that help service our organization through budget and other administrative procedures. Because we're so small, we often use outside consultants to help us with our rate cases. And in this case, we do have an outside consultant that's looking at the issues in this case. The governance of CURB is through 5 board members. Our current board members are Mary Treaster, Leilani Gray, Rachel Jefferson, Melody McCrae Miller, and Carol Barta. All are obviously women and fairly new to the board. They all are very cognizant of the need to protect residential and small commercial ratepayers from exorbitant rates. And they're also very environmentally keen. We're very happy to have these board members, and they do add a lot of value. Each of these board members is appointed for a 4-year staggered term, 1 from each of the congressional districts in Kansas, and then 1 at-large member. So Mary Treaster is from Congressional District number 1. Leilani Gray is from Congressional District number 2. Rachel Jefferson is from Congressional District number 3. And Melody McCrae Miller is from Congressional District number 4. Our at-large member is Carol Barta. So in this case, the application was filed on July 30, and a procedural schedule was issued by the Kansas Corporation Commission. That procedural schedule says that this case must be wound up by an order issued by the commission by or before May 27, 2022. 2 important aspects of this procedural schedule is the public evidentiary hearing, which is set tonight, and a technical evidentiary hearing, which is set for March of 2022. In the public evidentiary hearing tonight, ratepayers and other interested citizens are invited to speak and to talk about the rate impact that this case will have upon them. Nobody in this case can testify competently about how this case is going to affect you and your households, you and your business. So everyone here, the KCC, the company, the KCC staff, and certainly CURB are interested in your comments, either tonight or filed in this case. Thank you so much for taking part in this docket. The second hearing is a technical evidentiary hearing in which the utility, KCC staff, CURB, and any other interveners in this case will present technical evidence as to whether or not and to what extent the rate increase should be allowed. So what are the issues in this case? As the company indicated, this is an abbreviated rate case, and there are only 3 issues to be determined. The first is the retirement of the Asbury coal plant. The second is the acquisition of the Neosa Ridge, the North Fork Ridge, and the Kings Point wind farms. And then finally, the non-growth plant and related accumulated depreciation and accumulated deferred income tax balances. Each of these are very complicated issues, but will be determined primarily upon 2 principles of law. The first is capital investments made by a utility must be used and required to be used for them to be included in rate base. And secondly, capital investments made by a utility must be prudently incurred. These 2 principles, in short, basically mean that any investment made by a utility must benefit the ratepayer, and the cost involved must be reasonable. In short, these applicable principles of law hope to simulate what would happen if a private company invested and made charges to its customers in a competitive marketplace. There'll be the technical hearing that we will take place in March of 2022 will address these issues in more detail. And there's substantial complexity involved in the issues that are presented. With that, I'm going to close my remarks for this group. I want to thank you for the opportunity to explain what CURB is and to outline very briefly what the issues and applicable law in this case is. I want you to understand that we are your advocate, that we are here always to help you in any manner whatsoever. You can reach us or look at our website at www.curb.kansas.gov. You can email us at ecurb@curb.kansas.gov, or you can call us during business hours. We wait to hear from you. We appreciate our opportunity to serve the residential and small commercial ratepayers in Kansas. And thank you again for your attention in this matter.
Thanks, David. Our final presentation of the evening will be from Cole Bailey, representing KCC staff.
Good evening. My screen's up. Okay. Yeah, good evening, everyone. My name is Cole Bailey, and I work for the Corporation Commission as an attorney. Excuse me. For the KCC, and I do not represent the KCC or the commissioners. While I'm an employee of the KCC, my legal obligations are owed to commission staff. Tonight, I'll be providing an overview of some core functions of the KCC as well as Empire's rate case. This will include information on the docket proceedings, who the commission staff is, and how staff will analyze Empire's request, and how members of the public can stay informed and involved. The Kansas Corporation Commission is a state agency that is made up of 3 commissioners. They are Chairperson Andrew French, Commissioner Dwight Keene, and Commissioner Susan Duffy. The commissioners are appointed by the governor and serve staggered 4-year terms. As a commission, they have jurisdiction to oversee a number of industries. To assist the commission in this role, they have a staff of professionals in fields like accounting, economics, and engineering who are available to provide guidance and input. The commission staff themselves are state of Kansas employees or consultants hired by the state. They have knowledge and training in fields such as accounting, economics, engineering, and financial analysis. During the proceedings before the commission, staff advocates for the public generally, which is another way of saying that they balance the interests of all utility customers, the long-term health of the utility, and the state of Kansas. Staff attempts to weigh numerous competing interests and develop a position that serves everyone as best it can. Empire's abbreviated rate case application was filed last May. Empire's application asserts a gross annual revenue deficiency of about $4.47 million. Empire has about 10,000 Kansas customers, and this request on average will increase the average customer of about $4.97 per month. Empire's application is limited to capturing the revenue requirement impact relating to 1, the retirement of Asbury, the acquisition of Neosho Ridge, Norfolk Ridge, and Kings Point wind farms, and 3, the non-growth plant and related accumulated depreciation and accumulated deferred income tax balances as the end of the test year ending June 30, 2020. Commission staff is going through the request to cover auditing and verifying the elements of the case. I'd like to provide a little bit of context on the rate case process. Through the regulation of the electric industry, electric utilities are granted territorial monopolies, and their rates are regulated by the commission. Under Kansas law, rates for electric service must be just and reasonable. The legal requirement means rates must be sufficient to cover the utility's operating expenses and provide a reasonable level of return on the utility's investment. I'm an attorney who works at the KCC, and our job is to represent the commission's technical staff and make their case to the commission. The reason we do that is because in certain situations, the commission acts like a court. Commissioners act as judges. They hear and weigh the evidence, witnesses testify in front of them, and issue orders that can be appealed to higher courts. Technical staff acts as a party to the case. It develops and defends its own positions, recognizing that technical staff's duty is owed to the state of Kansas and the public generally. Here's how it works in theory. The KCC is a state agency. At the top of it are the 3 commissioners. In a formal proceeding like this rate case, abbreviated rate case, there are different parties. This includes the utility, commission's technical staff, CURB, and numerous interveners representing a variety of interests in some cases. As you can see, all of these are separate parties to the case, and even though the commission staff work for the commission, we independently develop and recommend our own position on the issues. Just like a court, it's the attorney's job to present the client's case to the commissioners. Once an application for a rate case is filed, the commission staff conducts an independent review of the company's request. This review includes an in-depth examination of the company's finances, which allows the staff to evaluate the application for accuracy and for compliance with Kansas law and the commission's regulations. The investigation also includes identification of any positive or negative impacts on customers, the utility, and the public. During the investigation, staff determines which costs the utility is entitled to recover in rates. That is, the costs necessary to provide electric service and those costs that are not appropriate to recover from customers. Finally, staff also evaluates the structure of the utility's rates to ensure they are fair and based on underlying costs served to those customers. After its investigation is complete, staff submits written testimony that indicates its position on the application, and staff actively participates in the rate case process by advocating for its position. Staff's role is not to help one party over another, but rather to provide independent assistance to the commissioners in balancing competing interests and evaluating the total impact of the application on the public interest. The remaining deadlines in this docket are shown on the screen. Under the current schedule, staff and intervener testimony is due January 13th, and staff and intervener cross-answering testimony is due January 26th. Empire will file rebuttal testimony on February 15th. Public comment period will end at 5 p.m. on March 10th. So if you intend to submit comments in this docket, you must submit your comments by that date. The commission will hold an evidentiary hearing on Empire's request beginning March 8th. And a commission order deciding this matter will be decided by May 27th. If you have additional questions about this case, commission staff is here available. They can come on the Zoom and answer questions this evening, or you can contact Commission's Office of Public Affairs and Consumer Protection. And I will, okay, yeah, one more slide. Finally, I want to leave you with information on how you can submit public comments in the docket or follow the case on our website. The first way you can make a comment in this docket is in person tonight. Following the question and answer session, these proceedings will go on record and your comments will be part of the docket. Or there are 3 convenient ways for you to make your comment directly to the Public Affairs Office online, by mail, or by phone. The information for each is on the screen. You can also follow these proceedings on our website by going to Docket Filings tab on our homepage, into the docket number, which is on the screen, and you can see all the filings that have been made. The KCC staff would like to thank you for coming out and participating in the public hearing tonight, and welcomes questions you may have for commission staff. I will leave this page up for a little bit. I'm done, David. I don't know if you want to leave this page up or who will go next.
Well, now we're on to questions. Thanks, Cole.
Okay.
We will now take questions for Empire, CURB, and commission staff. If you are registered as a participant in the Zoom meeting, let us know you have a question by using the raise hand feature. When your name is called, your microphone will be unmuted. Please limit yourself to 1 question until others have had an opportunity to ask their questions. We will come back around as time permits. Please refrain from any inappropriate language that could result in us silencing your microphone. I would like to remind everyone that the formal public comment portion of the hearing does not begin until the commissioners rejoin us in part 2. Feel free to ask questions at this time, but save your comment on the application until the appropriate time and add it to the official record in this case. And I know we have at least one member of the public who's on the phone, so I guess they don't have access to the raise hand feature. So if you have a question, raise your hand on Zoom, and if you're on the phone, if we can unmute them to see if they have anything they want to say.
I do. I'm on the phone. My name's
Mr.
David,
Chen.
and I'll wait till everybody else on Zoom gets done. I'm an older fella, not real technology advanced here. Cell phones as high as I go. Anyway, with that being said, I'll listen to everybody, and then I don't know if this is the proper forum for me to ask a couple of questions, but go ahead and, if you would, and proceed.
Well, Mr. Chubb, I think you might be the only member of the public who's on the call right now.
Yeah, your audio is real muddy and low for me on my phone.
I got it, David. Mr. Chubb, can you hear me?
Much better, yes.
Okay, you are the only one from the public participating tonight. So if you have questions, you can
Seriously?
go ahead and ask them.
That's really disappointing. Okay, well, and I don't know that this is a proper forum, listening to the background, and I appreciate getting to listen to all this. I'm a lifetime resident of Cherokee County. My adult life since 1972, I believe, I've been using the services of Empire District in at least one location to the present day. Some of the things I'm observing, though, as a resident here in Cherokee County, is I realize that we have a new company that has purchased the Asbury plant, converting it over. I think the term you use is repurposing. The thing that bothers me is we spent so much money, or Empire did, the public did, however you want to put it, spent so much money repurposing, quote, that plant before Liberty purchased it, and now we're going to repurpose it again. And I understand in our economy and what's going on right now in the world that fossil fuels are a thing of the past. Got that. We're going to have to look at something in the future. Solar and wind, I think we'll all agree that that's not the best idea, but that's the alternatives we have right now. But my concern is listen to you guys, you professionals that crunch the numbers and all, from a person from the public. I'm hearing these words here. I'm going to have a savings for customers of over $90,000, $900,000, another $2.7 million savings when you guys purchase these wind farm, whatever it is we're purchasing or you're purchasing with our money, for a savings of $3.8 million back to you, the customer. How does that money come back to me as a customer? Are you going to prorate and pay me back once you get everything purchased? Just curious. Maybe a silly question. The other thing I have is more of a pet peeve. My wife and I, or my wife is in her name, inherited some property in Cherokee County when her father passed away 2 years ago. And almost every month since then, we're on Empire District over at Lowell, Kansas, Baxter Springs street address. We get a shut-off notice. My wife calls, then a month after month, most recently was this month. And we keep being told, most recently, it's not your guys' problem at all. But 2 days or a day or two after we get the shut-off notice, we call in, we get a figure what we're supposed to pay, and then the amount's different. When we finally get the bill 2 days after the shut-off notice, I'd like for you guys to fix that. As an old person, my heart skips every time you guys send a shut-off notice. Those are my two observations. My platform, I don't think is really this meeting tonight, but I will contact the commission about my concerns.
Well, I'll start out here, Mr. Chubb. First off, I agree with you. It's a little disappointing that there's only one person taking part in this. As I mentioned earlier, this is a very important part of the rate making process, and so I do want to thank you for speaking up and joining the call this evening. In terms of Asbury, you're exactly right. In 2014 timeframe, we had the Mercury and Air Toxic Standards rule that at the time we had to make a decision to spend money to retrofit it in order to continue its operation, or retire it and replace it with something else. At that point in time, it was cheaper to retrofit it and do those, invest the money that you discussed and brought up. At that time, if she would do that, then it was to retire it and replace it. The renewable energy industry, as well as the coal-fired industry, has changed so much since then that whenever we talk about savings over a 20-year period, that includes Asbury in it. The fixed costs associated with Asbury and all the people that are working there, as well as the additional capital, it was actually cheaper for us to retire it and replace it with wind than it was to continue to keep it in operation. So even including the money that was invested. And so we had a decision, do we continue operating something that's not economic for our customers, even though we knew it was going to be a tough story to tell, or we replace it. And so we did what was best for our customers. In terms of the rate impact and how, we're asking for 4.5 and 3.7, and how that's going to be, as you mentioned, refunded or whatever. I think I will hand that over to Greg Tillman to discuss a little bit how the rates work from that perspective.
Thanks, Tim. And again, thank you for your question. So it's important to know that implementing the wind farms, retiring Asbury, those create savings in other areas of your bill. So you got this bill that consists of all of the investment that we put in the ground.
Gentlemen, quite honestly, you don't need to give me the pitch. I listened to Joe Jennings. It was a manager in Baxter Springs for Empire in a Kiwanis meeting that I was a member of at the time, and he was too. And he explained when you guys put in the gas line on state line, I think you call it, it's actually in Missouri, but it's on the Kansas-Missouri state line in Galena, just outside of Galena, that the only purpose of putting in the gas line at that time, so it was very costly, as I recall. And this is back in the early 90s. This happened. You guys did that. Check your records. And the comment to the Kiwanis Club at the time is that the cost of that would never, it wasn't a big enough line to run that plant. Don't know what happened in the process, but today, of course, you guys know, it's I think a full gas plant. And it's just been recently renovated again. I know we have to look to the future. I understand that. It's just, it seems sometimes new offices I see going up, brand new offices, brand new equipment, and yet you want us to pay for it. I'm a consumer. I'm telling you where, from the public, where I come from, after over 40 years, actually close to 50 years plus of using your guys' services. I see that. I can't change. I can't go to another place. You guys are the guys. I trust that you guys will manage our money properly, and those entities out there that are regulating all this will listen to the public. That's all I ask, and just bring these things to light. But you don't need to convince me why you're changing. It's just like having an old car. I've been through my life, and there comes a time when you love the car, but it's not worth dumping the money in it. Or a boat. Boat's nothing but a hole in the water to throw money in. So I get that. And I'm not saying your equipment is that way. It's hard to keep up with technology. I was in the broadcast business. I know how hard it is with changes in technology and all. I hope you guys do the right thing. Just consider when you tell the public, though, that we're saving money, and it's kind of, I don't see it as a consumer. All I see is my bill going up.
Yeah. So again, I appreciate those comments. Your comment with regard to state line combined cycle, it was constructed in 2000. And so, and it has not been repurposed. It's been that from day one. And then,
could I correct you though? Can I correct you though? You guys put a line in to that state line thing back in the 90s. Am I wrong that there wasn't some kind of distribution plant or something that Empire owned there at the time? Am I wrong?
If we put in a new distribution line, Mr. Chubb, it would have been probably for combined cycle. So it might have been in 98 or 9 in anticipation of operation in 2000.
Okay. Well, I just know that in a public meeting or in the Kiwanis Club, Joe Jennings worked for Empire, ran the Baxter office, gave us a presentation of the advances that Empire was doing with that plant because it was a big deal at that time. And I know the plant itself, this new plant setting over there, yes, 2000. Like I said, I've been a lifetime resident. I've seen all this stuff unfold. So anyway, with that being said, I don't want to waste anybody's time here. I will contact the commission about any concerns that I might have in the future and may participate again as a public member. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Yep, absolutely. I think it's important to remember that, we did file a case in 2018. It ended up being $0 rate increase. We filed one in 2017 and pulled it. And we filed the previous one in 2011, which was fully adjudicated in 2012. And so if you take a look at the percentage increase that we're doing right now, it's less than 0.5% per year for a commercial customer, and even less than that for a residential customer. So wish you had stayed on to hear all that. But at the end of the day, that's something I'm very proud of as we move forward. I agree nobody likes their bills to go up, but that's something I know I'm proud of.
All right. Well, is there anyone else who has a comment? At this time, I'm going to pause for a moment and we'll welcome the commission back to the hearing and begin part 2 of commencement.
All right, it looks like we're back. Do we have all 3 commissioners? See Commissioner Keene. And I see Commissioner Duffy. All right. Well, at this time, if we have finished our Q&A, I will call to order the Kansas Corporation Commission public hearing regarding docket number 21 EPDE 444 RTS. Empire Electric initiated this docket for the primary purpose of requesting an increase in its base rates. My name is Andrew French. I'm chair of the KCC, and my colleagues, Commissioners Dwight Keene and Susan Duffy, join me, and thank you for attending this public hearing this evening. The hearing is now on the record, and the transcript will become a part of the official docket file. May I first have the appearances of council, please, starting with Empire.
Good evening, commissioners. It's good to see you again. James G. Flaherty, Ottawa, Kansas, and Diana Carter on behalf of the applicant, the Empire District Electric Company.
Thank you, Mr. Flaherty. Curb.
Good evening, David Nickel on behalf of Curb.
Thank you, David, and commission staff.
Good evening, Cole Bailey, Topeka, Kansas, on behalf of commission staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bailey. Does staff have a recommendation regarding notice of this public hearing?
Yes. In the commission's July 13th, 2021 order adopting procedural schedule, the commission ordered a public hearing in this matter to be held today, November 16th, 2021 at 6 p.m. The commission's order was served on all parties in the proceeding at that time. On October 19th, 2021, Liberty Empire filed an affidavit of mailing and publication in the newspapers announcing the date, time, and a short explanation of the public hearing and abbreviated rate case, which was also placed in the inserts of the October 2021 bills. And it was also delivered electronically to customers on their e-bills. Therefore, staff recommends notice is proper and the commission has jurisdiction to hear this matter at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Bailey. Are there any objections to notice? Hearing none, I will find that notice was proper and the commission has jurisdiction to hear this matter at this time and place. This hearing is an important step in our process and we do look forward to hearing your comments. It was my understanding that we had one member of the public registered to provide comments this evening. However, I am not seeing that individual on our Zoom anymore. Can someone confirm for me whether the individual perhaps had their questions answered or is no longer on?
Yes, he has dropped from the hearing.
Okay. Well, thank you very much then. So now at this time, we do not have anyone else registered to provide public comments this evening. However, as was mentioned, there is still time to submit written comments to the commission in this docket. And to assist with providing more information on the options for submitting a public comment, I am going to turn it over to Ms. Linda Berry, our Director of Public Affairs and Consumer Affairs at the KCC.
Good evening, everyone. I would like to reiterate that there are a number of ways to submit public comments to the commission. And in order to do that, you have until March 10th at 5 p.m. The slide you're looking at right now shows a comment submission process through our website, kcc.ks.gov. Once you go to the website, if you look in the left navigation bar and click on the box that says Your Opinion Matters, it will take you to a page that you can read about the docket and also submit a comment. If that's not a convenient way to submit a comment, you can also send an email to the Public Affairs Office. You can call us, you can send a written letter. So we really have a wide variety of ways that you can contact us with your thoughts on the docket. So we hope that you will. And if you have any questions about any of this or need help submitting a comment, please feel free to call us. Our numbers are shown on the screen and we'd be happy to help you at any time. And I will turn it back to Chair French to close out the hearing. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Well, I want to thank all the parties for your attendance this evening, regardless of the number of comments or public attendance or registration in these events. I think these are really important for the parties to inform the public of their application and how we do business at the commission. Obviously, this is being streamed live over YouTube, which is a great resource for the public, and I believe it will be up on YouTube for some time to come if folks want to check in and watch this at a later date. In terms of next steps, the commission will hold an evidentiary hearing on this matter beginning on March 8th, 2022, starting at 9 a.m. in the morning at our offices in Topeka. And we are scheduled to issue a decision on Empire's application on or before May 27th of 2022. As presiding officer, I believe this does conclude the public hearing, and I will adjourn the public hearing at this time. Thank you all for your attendance.